All right, we are doing review of 254 and 257 using the review sheet that I sent out last night. And if we have time, I sent out one yesterday.
This one.
And that's what we're going to start with. And if we have time, we're going to do the one that I sent out today as well. All right. Go ready? All right. So here goes. That's the wrong sheet.
Okay, can we start from the bottom, the top? Because each time we will start from the top and we will find ourselves finish only half. The reason I say that because Raphael and I study at the top and the bottom we missed, right?
We're starting from the top. Okay. Yeah, that's where we are, yeah?
What are we learning?
So we're doing Siman, Reish, Reish Nun Dalid, and Reish Nun Zayin. Reish Nun Dalid is more about Shehiyah, and Reish Nun Zayin is about Hatmanah. Okay, so we learned about the fact that raw meat, we learned about the fact that raw meat can be put on the fire right before Shabbos, but in Reish Nun Dalid, Reish Nun Dalid is basically gathering up loose ends about Shehiyah that were not covered in Reish Nun Gimel.
Sorry, Rabbi. Raw meat on to food already 50% already cooked.
No, I'm talking about raw meat that is put on the fire right before Shabbos. You don't have to.
Without the pot netting in it, just the raw meat?
No, there could be other food in it.
I will learn, Rabbi, you have to be the food, some 50, the food should be 50%, and then you add another piece raw.
No, the food does not have to be 50%.
So this is something, another halakha?
The food does not have to be 50%. The food could be raw just like the meat.
50% doesn't need the meat.
Doesn't need the meat. I mean, it depends on the opinion, but whatever. The food does not need to be 50%. The food can be any amount. It could be 0, could be 10, could be 50, could be 100.
Right before Shabbat.
Makes no difference. As long as the meat is 100% raw, Shabbos comes in, you can put it on the fire right before Shabbos without covering the fire. Because that is obviously not going to be ready for Friday night meal. At least that's the way it was in those days. It took a long time to cook. So therefore, you were not going to use it until the next day, and therefore there was no problem of Shehiyah that you might stir it.
So remind me, Rabbi, which food we don't allow to put it before Shabbat if it's maybe choshesh for Friday evening? If it's cooked more than
any food that started to cook, even meat, if it started to cook, but it's not half cooked or even a third cooked, then it's a problem. And also, even if it's raw, unless it's meat. Yeah, if it's raw meat, then you could put it. Other food that's raw is no good. It has to be at least cooked k'maychal ben rusoy. All right? So we continue and we say, now, that which we said that does not apply to a barbecue because a barbecue cooks very fast. So therefore, it doesn't help that it's raw. All right? So, very simple. If it's not in a pot, if it's directly over the flame, it doesn't help if it is raw because it's going to cook anyway for Friday night.
Our posting nowadays, do they compare to a barbecue? Does any posting compare?
Say the word barbecue, I haven't seen it.
Our stoves to barbecues, meaning the smell of a barbecue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do compare it to
They say that nowadays, this whole heter is basically doesn't work.
I have a question.
Compared to the barbecue?
I don't know if they do.
Robert, I have a question. I have a barbecue, small one, and the gas is stop empty after 2 hours. I cannot put meat before Shabbat and then 2 hours it's going to be all by itself for Friday evening.
You can, but if it's not half cooked, it has to be covered.
No. I mean, like barbecue. Let's say barbecue. We said we don't allow to do that.
If it's not half cooked, if it's half cooked, you're allowed.
If it's not half cooked.
Yeah, if it's half cooked, you're allowed.
Then you're allowed to put it, and then it will stop by itself, and then
It doesn't have to stop. It does stop. It doesn't stop. Makes no difference. You take it off when it's done. That's all.
For barbecue, the minute it touch fire before the fire, there's no way to reach it unless you remove
the bottom,
the
grill.
You have a knob. What does that mean?
Huh?
You have a knob. What does that mean?
Some sorts of charcoal.
No, it's not charcoal or barbecue.
So what? So you take it off and you move the charcoal. What's the difference?
It's fine. Anything that is Gufa and Ktuma, you can remove and do it.
No, Gufa Ktuma, you did something special to cover it.
You put the black, you know, pick up the black and do something under.
Of course you could, but by putting the blech, you did a special action to show that you're not going to do that. But if you just have the regular barbecue, you didn't do anything special.
Can you put a block on your barbecue?
Yeah, why not?
So if I put
Gufa Ktuma. Gufa Ktuma helps.
let's say if
I'm
you're
saying put a metal piece on top of the
Aluminum
barbecue.
Yeah, why not?
the aluminum pan will count because you never go barbecue with aluminum pan. But aluminum pan,
Yeah, why not?
You need to put this there.
Why not? Just like an empty pot works as Gufa Ktuma, so an aluminum pan is an empty pot.
Does it cover the entire area?
No. Doesn't have to cover the entire area. Just can underneath whatever it is that you're barbecuing is fine.
Sure.
Okay, so now there are cases which really nowadays, I mean, it's hard to understand exactly, but whatever. There are cases that it's allowed without Gufa Ktuma because here is the case that we speak about. I'm just going to say the halacha the way it's.
I'm gonna say it now.
I'm going to say the halacha the way it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, even though Ktuma is cover the coals. Even though it's not so easy to understand in today's meat and today's barbecues, whatever. Here's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. If you have a piece of tender meat, like goat meat, chicken meat, and it is in a covered oven, right? Doesn't say barbecue, a covered oven. So then you could leave it even if it is less than half cooked, even if it's not Gufa Ktuma, because if you would uncover the oven, the wind is going to get in and it's going to ruin it because it's so tender and the wind is going to blow up the fire. And I don't know if that applies in today's barbecue. We don't have such wind that it's not going to blow up the fire. The fire is very, just so measured. So I don't know, but that's what it says in Shulchan Aruch.
Which date?
Beginning of Reish Nun Daled. Another point that he says in Reish Nun Daled is that if you smear the oven closed, this is something I mentioned in the past. If you smear the oven closed with mud that dries, it's kind of like cement, then you could leave anything you want in it. It's no problem. You break it. You would break it.
Seal. On your last
Seal. You're allowed on Shabbos because it's put there temporarily. It's not put there for permanence. No, it was put there specifically to remove. So it's not. It's like it's like a box that's taped shut. It's just
it goes.
temporary.
It goes. Eat inside. It's a food inside.
No. It goes is something that you break and you throw out. This is an oven. It's not a shell oven that goes. But the fact that it's closed is not permanent. So the point is that by the time you open it up and break it open, you're going to remember it's Shabbos, and therefore you're not going to be machata b'gachal. And this is something that I mentioned last week, I think it was, or maybe last night. Somebody asked about if you take the knobs off and you lock them up, if that is good enough to stop Shemiyah Chata. So I saw actually the Chazon Ish says,
Instead of the black, maybe?
instead of the blech, no blech, just take the knobs away. No, that's covering the knobs. That's covering the knobs. Covering the knobs is a good thing. But
I don't use it, but if I have to use that, I would just.
okay, that's another thing. That's another thing. You don't have to. So if you, the Chazon Ish says that if you put a lock on an oven, that's the same as sealing it with cement. Because to unlock it is considered a big deal. And it would seem like the same thing applies to knobs. If you take knobs and you put them away under lock and key, so by the time you undo the lock to get the knobs, it's such a big job that it would be something you would remember by then. So that would be okay. I never did either. That's just good to know. In fact, this is what I saw in the Deer Shoe. I put this into the review sheet that I sent out today. If you just remove the knobs, Rav Vosner says already that's already like the cement, because the job of putting the knobs back in is a big job. That's the same as you could, but it's also difficult. You have to get a pair of pliers. All right. I hear the argument. I hear it.
No, but
Okay.
The point you remove that, this will give you a thought not to. Right, Rabbi?
I'm sorry?
If you remove the knob, so it's meaning already you give you another thought before you action. If the knob is there,
Yeah, but it has to be a big action. The whole point of breaking it open is not that it's a reminder, it's that it's a big effort to change it.
Yeah.
And during the time of that effort, you're going to remember. Okay, we continue and we say, okay, fruit that is edible raw, if you put it on a oven and you want to cook it on, from before Shabbos, you don't have to make sure it's cooked to Michael ben Rusoi because it's already edible as is. On the other hand, all of the rules of Bishul apply to that fruit. The fact that it's edible raw does not diminish from the fact that cooking it is Asr. There's a question of Asr Madaraisa Madarabana, the Mishnah Berurah discusses that. But in any case, it's definitely Asr. Not only that, but the Taz adds that if the fruit is not fully cooked and you have it under a Hatmanah towel, let's say you have a towel or blankets, whatever, over a chicken soup pot, and you have those fruits that are not quite finished cooking for your dessert, your kampat, or whatever it's called, under that towel. Normally, you're allowed to add to Hatmanah. That's what we're going to learn later. 257. You're allowed to add to Hatmanah, but here you're not allowed to add to Hatmanah. Sorry, to add like another layer of towel to make it more insulated. If the insulation comes off, you're allowed to put it back on, but not in this case because the fruit is not fully cooked. So it's going to cook more by being warmer or by being kept warm for longer. It's not actually going to get warmer because whatever heat the pot has is what it has, right? But adding an insulation is going to keep it hot for longer, which is going to help it cook more, which is Asr.
But you're allowed to remove to cover your pot with a blanket.
Yeah.
Before Shabbos.
From before Shabbos, yes, and you're allowed to remove it and put it back.
Is that on Shabbos?
Yeah, if it was there before Shabbos, yeah.
Only if it was there.
Uh-huh.
That's why you remove it.
No, the rules for returning Hatmanah are different than returning Shehiyah. Rules for returning Hatmanah are more lenient. If it was there, you can put it back. If it falls, put it back, add to it, all of that. Okay, rules for bread. A lot of rules for bread here. First of all, the definition of Kamaichel ben Drusoi for bread is that it forms a crust to the extent that if you break it, at that point, it's not going to have strings of dough that attach from one to the other. Now there's a machlokes, what side has to form that crust? Is it both sides or is it one side? In those days, it would be the side that was attached to the oven. They used to stick it to the oven walls. That's a machlokes. L'chatchila, you should be strict and have it both ready, but yeah, but it's okay if one is ready. Either one. And interesting, yeah, whatever happens first. An interesting thing is, by the way, that there's a diuk in the Machaber, because the Machaber just says as long as it has this crust, it's okay. Even though in Reish Nun Gimel, he paskened apparently like the Chachamim against Hananya. Here, he just says it's enough that the crust is there and that's it. Doesn't mention the fact that Chachamim want it fully cooked. So the poskim are medayik from this that bread is not a problem, even according to the Chachamim, because it gets ruined if it gets too hot. You're not going to be machata. You're not going to stoke it because you might ruin the bread.
Did anyone say later on he changed his opinion?
I don't know.
I remember it being that big spark of why it's spark nowadays.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's based on this. I don't know. I didn't see that, but I hear it. I hear it.
So the bread must be fully cooked to put it on.
No, it could be half cooked as long as it has a crust.
Crust up and down. Right.
Better on both sides, at
So
least on one side.
The dough is inside, no problem.
Correct.
It's a chidush.
Yeah. Because that's considered like half cooked.
Before Shabbat or in Shabbat?
Before Shabbos, it has to have a crust.
Before Shabbat, but not in Shabbat.
No, unless the oven is covered, unless the heat is covered.
What a blach.
A blech, which you can't really have in an oven. Not so practical. So
So the blach, you allowed to put it?
yeah, but how you going to bake bread on a blech?
If you put it overnight, you maybe.
No,
No.
not going to happen. You have to make bread in an oven, not on a blech.
I used to. Someone give me blach. Rabbi, this blach, I put one time food. It was shachor pecham. I can cook anything you want with that. So I don't know. That's why I give it to me.
No.
But this one, it was hot, like you can boil water. I mean,
Depends how you put the
no,
fire.
it's no switch on anything, Rabbi.
This is where they talk about plata.
Plata. So
It's
plata.
no switch on anything.
So what's the question?
I mean, but it's you can cook.
So what's the question?
Rabbi.
So what's the question?
He's just telling you the
Okay.
story.
Yeah.
The Seder Makabel. I hear it. Okay, we continue and we say, ya ba 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 ba, ya ba 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 bye bye. Now, if the person baked b'shoigig, bread in a forbidden way, and that's his food for Shabbos, that's his bread for Shabbos, what can he do? Only bread.
You can eat 3 sudas.
Exactly. You can take off 3 sudas and invite other people that don't have bread to take off 3 sudas. That's correct.
And for 3 people,
As many people as want.
as many.
As many people that don't
3
have
sudas.
sudas.
3
sudas. Exactly. Now that's only if he doesn't have bread. If he has bread but he doesn't have lechem mishnah, there's no heter. Bread is the ikar. Lechem mishnah is secondary. It's a mitzvah, but it's not the ikar mitzvah. The ikar mitzvah of the suda is bread. A detail of the suda is that bread should have lechem mishnah, but that's not the main thing. You understand?
According to the Shabbos, someone doesn't want to eat bread. Meat doesn't want to have carbs.
Not makamal. No,
What?
not makamal. He must eat bread. Absolute chiyuv to eat bread on Shabbos, unless it's physically harmful to him, and it hurts him. To
Well,
eat.
nowadays they say that the white bread is very unhealthy.
Yeah, whatever. Very unhealthy. And then the Diet Coke that he drinks and the chocolate that he eats, all of a sudden the bread. No, if he has a condition, talking about he has a
There's puffers.
okay, but stam because he has the latest fad
I don't
diet.
want to eat bread. That's something that you're telling me I have to eat bread. I don't want to eat bread.
Too bad.
I don't want to eat bread. The whole thing's blending.
It is oinig. You just.
Not oinig, I don't want to eat
It
bread.
is oinig. You just decided that you have a mashugna diet that you don't want to eat it. It's not that you don't enjoy it.
By the
You
way,
enjoy bread. You just have a mishagas. You don't want to eat it. That's your problem.
by the way, Rabbi,
I'm not talking about a person who actually doesn't like bread. That's something else.
Like
Of
someone
course,
doesn't
he's
like
got
fish. Someone doesn't like chicken.
exactly.
הברד, ברכת המזון זה הפרנסה של המקור.
Okay.
אתה שומע?
Sure. Okay, so my friends, if you, by the way, I think I mentioned this the other night also. If you only have, I said this yesterday, I'll repeat it anyway because it's in the notes today. If you have nothing else to eat besides what you did forbidden shehiyah with, you have no bread. That's the only food you have, literally. We mentioned this last night, so that you could eat it if it was a shogig. No food, exactly. Okay. Now, nevertheless, when you remove this bread, you have to do it with the shinui, like we said. Now, if it was baked, let's say it was baked in a permissible way on Shabbos, right? From before Shabbos, it was already kamachal ben dersoy, no problem, right? Then you could take out more than the amount for 3 seudas, as long as you can eat it on Shabbos, because otherwise you're still preparing for after Shabbos. I don't think b'mezid you can do it at all. This whole heter is only if it was b'shogeg. B'mezid, I don't think there's a heter, even if you have nothing else to eat. It means b'shogeg. Look before, the whole heter is only b'shogeg. Yeah, the whole heter is b'shogeg only. I'm pretty sure.
You can remove extra more than 2-3 seudot if you have a guest, like 5 guests, so you can bring 3 for each one seudot.
I think so.
And if 2 or 3 missing, so it's okay. It's not bad. No.
If you have guests and that's their food, I don't see why not. And
if they not show up, so it's not kosher.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
We have 2 questions here.
Okay, here's an interesting point.
We have 2 questions. So, you see it?
Let's say,
We won't skip the whole onions and dishwash water.
oh, sorry. Fruit that is edible raw as an isser b'shalya does not apply to onions and does not apply to water.
Garlic is included, Rabbi?
Okay, here's what it is. When it comes to something that is only edible, going back to what we said before, that if fruit is edible raw, it doesn't have to be cooked, ma'achal ben dersoy. Something is edible raw, but only b'shas adchak, like onions. Most people don't eat it raw.
Garlic?
I think so. Most people don't eat garlic raw. So those are things that it has to be cooked, ma'achal ben dersoy. Because even though it's edible raw, but it's not normally eaten raw. So therefore, you might have the Shehiyah problem. Now, water is definitely drinkable raw, but it's significantly better when it's cooked. Water. When you have cooked water, it's tea, it's coffee, it's cocoa, it's a whole nother thing. So there, it has to be kamachal ben dersoy.
The water.
I'm saying
Okay, then I'm going to get to the dishwasher.
Does not apply to water. 1 second, I just want to clarify that. Does not apply to 1 second. That means if you want to fill up your urn before Shabbos, you have to do it at such a time that your urn will be, the water in your urn will be cooked kamachal ben dersoy when Shabbos comes in.
For the coffee
What
water?
is the shear? Well, yeah, coffee, whatever. The urn.
The water. The
Urn, the kumkum.
wow.
How much does it have to be hot? Or Moshe says, Yad Tzeledesboy. Yad Tzeledesboy is the shear of Michael ben dersoy. That's what he says for water. Right. So that's another way of being Mashah. You're saying if it takes to boil 20 minutes, 10 minutes. It's another way.
If it's 50, it's halfway. Halfway of the water to be boiling, it's 106.
No, it's halfway in terms of time. Time. Halfway in terms of time. I don't think it's halfway in terms of temperature.
Because boiling is 212.
I understand. I don't think it's halfway in terms of temperature.
140, 160 depends on the opinion.
I think it's halfway in terms of time, temperature. I think it's halfway in terms of time. But Rav Moshe gives a different getter of Kamachal ben Drusai. So that's different. It's different share. Different share. Kamachal ben Drusai, Yatz Letters by is not 50% between room temperature and boiling. I'm saying it's not.
It's like halfway.
I'm saying, but it's not halfway in terms of temperature. Maybe it's halfway in terms of it.
Water, how you can decide what is halfway on water?
So he says it's Yatz Letters by.
140. No,
There's different opinions about Yatz Letters by. Yatz Letters by. Lahachmir, we have to be machmir with a low amount, like 110. But lahachmir the other way, you have to be machmir like 160. Meaning to say, if it's not yet 160, you can't move it on the blech to make it higher. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not, maybe it's not considered Yatz Letters by.
Another person.
The Rav's going to get to now.
The Rav's going to get to it now. Okay, even water used for washing dishes can be a problem. Meaning to say, the whole thing about it being Kamachal ben Drusai for water, let's say, whatever it is, it's not only about stuff that you're going to drink. It's also things you need for washing purposes. You want warm water for washing dishes, so you have it, on the fire, whatever. All these rules apply also. That's all.
So you're allowed to use the water to wash the dishes from the.
You have to follow the rules of Kli Rishon, Kli Sheni. You can't pour on something that's not cooked from a Kli Rishon. If it was cooked, liquid. All the details.
If the plate is dirty, you pour hot water.
From a Kli Rishon, it could be a problem if it's liquid that cooled off. Liquid that cooled off.
Say like if you have a plate in your sink and you pour the hot water directly into the sink onto the plate and you start moving things around, is that artificial?
Could be a problem. It's machlekes.
What's the answer? Iru mikli rishon to
Iru mikli rishon is mavashal k'dei kliba.
Of Kli Sheni?
Of Kli Sheni, what does that mean?
There's food on the plate.
Well, plate is nothing.
So what is it?
It's cold.
It's just food. It's cooked food.
If it's solid food, there's no issue b'chlal. It's in bishlach habishal. If it's liquid, that's an issue.
Okay, original, so.
So now, if it's solid food, there's no issue at all. No, if it's a liquid, then it's an issue. If there's liquid on the plate, then cold liquid,
Cold water, then you want hot water.
something like that. If you're pouring water on top of cold liquid, that's a problem.
But Rabbi,
You get conditioned.
Kli Shlishi or Revi'i, it's no problem.
Not for washing dishes, no.
There's no issue with that.
Not for washing dishes, for sure. Okay, my friends. Now, let's say you have bread that you don't want to eat until after Shabbos. So you have a plan. You're going to put it in the oven right before Shabbos. And I'm not going to be machata b'gecholim because I don't eat it till after Shabbos. So why would I even care about the temperature? No, that doesn't work. Why not?
Shema.
Shema.
He will think it's something overcooked or.
Shema, he will decide that he wants to use it for Shabbos. Just like we say that you have to follow the rules of Shehiyah, even for your cholent. Why do you have to follow the rules of Shehiyah for your cholent? Your cholent is for Shabbos day. You never serve your cholent on Friday night. So why would you be machata b'gecholim? Why would you change the temperature on the cholent if by Shabbos day it's going to for sure be ready? No, you might change your mind. You might want to have a little taste, a little cholent party on Friday night. So we say Shema Yechad. So, shkoyach.
You said that put it before Shabbos and then after Shabbos or the day after?
I'm sorry?
Shabbos or after Shabbos? What did you ask?
Even if you're planning to eat it after Shabbos, you still have.
But as long as you put it in enough time that it's going to be cross on top, that shouldn't be a problem.
No, I'm talking about if you didn't make it a crust on top. That's the thing. Exactly. So that the fact that you're not planning to do it after Shabbos doesn't help because you might change your mind.
But why is not be like a raw meat that just put before?
Because raw meat doesn't. Raw meat is only good for meat because it cooks very slowly. It takes a long time. That's not good for bread. So then it's no problem. No problem. Ufuk Tuma works for bread, just like it works for pot or anything else. Now, there is another opinion, my friends, which is not brought until 257, because the halachas are shared between all of these simanim, and sometimes things that relate to Shehiyah creep into 257, things that relate to Hatmanah creep into 253 and 4, whatever. But I'll mention it now just because it's relevant here. And that is, there is an opinion that says that any Shehiyah for the purpose of the day meal does not have to follow the rules of Gufur Uktum. And for sure for after Shabbos. Because you know you're not planning to eat it for tonight. So there is no issue of Shemei Chata, just like in the case of raw meat. And it says there that you can be somech on this opinion b'diavad. I mean, lachatchila, you should follow the rules of Shehiyah for your chalent pot. But b'diavad, if you didn't, it's not going to be aser, because the fact that you were not planning to eat it at night is enough b'diavad to consider that you're not going to be mechata.
Like yesterday.
Sorry?
She didn't put the aluminum under the
Chalent pot, and it was not half cooked, and there was no blech. B'diavad, it's going to be good. Question?
Is it like yesterday we had a few cases where it was rock and sorach?
I don't think so. I think it says there that you could be samech on this b'diavad. Maybe it says shlo yehi ragel b'kach. Maybe it says shlo yehi. Shouldn't do it on a regular basis. It could be it says that.
You have shot that cut and go like the other stuff. It's always a shot that cut, but you can't do it enough time. So you always can go like this with the other.
כשמאמין לצורך מוח אמור להב מורדים דבר שיהיה שמייס הבא. שגבר יש לסמוך על זה ובא שלי יורג אלאסס כן. שומע? בדיעבד, this is in Rishon and Zion, Aleph. בדיעבד in the Ramah. בדיעבד לסמוך על זה ובא שלי יורג אלאסס כן. You can be samech on a b'diavad as long as you don't do it on a regular basis. Don't take advantage of this b'diavad. But if it happens here and there, it's okay.
Because your challenge wasn't prepared 50% before Shabbos, you can still.
No, I'm not talking about Shasat Chaos. The other means it's already done. B'diavad. Not always.
Cake.
Oh, cake. I forgot.
I smell,
Shkoyach. Thank you for reminding me. Covered Rosh Chodesh.
Ah.
Perfect.
Amen. What's this way? בכבוד, אוהבים לשם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא מיני מזונות.
Amen. Question? What's your question? B'diavad and Shat L'chak?
Some other theory from the Hakel also. And some say that, and I'll find it and I'll talk about. One says that since nowadays their cooking was done with coals.
Yeah, we mentioned that. Yeah. That our fires don't die down. But you can only use it as a tziruf, not as a hatanaton. Yeah. Okay. Now,
Shehiyah Shabbos morning can be makel.
B'diavad.
If it already happened.
B'diavad. I don't know about Shasavak. I'm not
Okay,
sure.
well, nice that you have a challenge that's not 50% cooked, and you have guests for tomorrow morning. It's only food that's going to be left.
I'm saying, so why don't you just put down a foil? What's the big deal? I mean, in theory, if you have no foil and your mom is stuck in the middle of nowhere, maybe Shasavak is like B'diavad. Maybe. Okay.
You have to put the other out to let you have to put one Shabbos.
Well, if it's not fully cooked, you can't lift it up and put it back down.
Cooked.
Yeah. Although once it's cooked, what's the point? You didn't really help at that point. Okay, so now, let's say a person put the bread on Shabbos. Chas v'shalom. He baked on Shabbos, chas v'shalom. Forgot it was Shabbos. Or even chas v'shalom, he did it on purpose. Is he allowed to scrape it off before it bakes in order to save himself from the isser of bishul on Shabbos?
Yes.
Yes. What about somebody else? If you saw somebody else doing it and you want to save them from the isser?
No, you can't.
Cannot. Why not?
Then he will hit that other guy.
No, he's not going to eat it. It's not baked yet. Take it out before.
What was the question on Shabbos?
Can you scrape out the bread to save somebody else who baked it on Shabbos?
Why you said
Save
no?
him from being
I think so. I think so. You're allowed to too.
Nope.
No?
Not allowed.
So, it's mukta?
He didn't do any malacha. I mean, he half malacha because he heated
So
up.
you have
But
to tell him, Rabbi?
okay, but it didn't bake yet. And the Ma'aseh he wasn't over on bishul yet. So why can't you take it out to save him from the isser?
Because you do the sin.
Which sin?
To cook. To
No,
milash.
you're taking it out. You're not
Scrape it.
scraping, exactly. Scraping is Issa D'Rabbanan. You can't do an Issa D'Rabbanan to save a person who was Shehiyah, was negligent from an Issa D'Oraisa.
So
If he hadn't been Shehiyah, by the way, we find other cases where you're allowed to do a small sin to save somebody else from a big sin. If he was not Shehiyah, we have examples of that.
B'diavad.
But if he was Shehiyah, then you're not allowed to.
If B'diavad, you're allowed to help him?
Even B'diavad, you cannot help him if he was Shehiyah. In this case, he was. Obviously, he did it on Shabbos. Now, let's say you don't have to scrape it, because let's say it's in our ovens where you can just take it out, just like that.
Take it out.
No scraping necessary.
Take it out? No.
What thrown out? No. El Yerabba says it's muktzah. Sorry, dough is muktzah, inedible. And therefore, you're being over on an isser of muktzah. You
It's
can't
better
do
to leave it
muktzah
over
to
there.
save somebody from isser of bishul.
We have to be on big cross and stuff, and then you take it out.
Yeah, but then he's already over. What's the point? Once it's cooked, Kamachal Ben Rasai already did the Aveira. So what's the point?
So how can you when you do that, you have no return back. It's a sin. Because you cannot save them.
He can save himself, but you can't
by
save
how?
him. He can take it out.
It's a muktzah.
He can do a small sin to save himself from a big sin. You can't do a small sin to save him from a big sin.
Okay.
You can get a goy, I think so, yeah. Can you?
No, I'm sorry. If you cannot do it, you
Sure,
cannot tell
there's
the
a
goy,
pashut.
Rabbi.
It's a pasha.
Rabbi, if you cannot do it, you cannot tell.
Muktzah is a shvus, and a goy is a double shvus, so it's a tzarech mitzvah, you're saying.
Maybe the guy did that. He can tell the goy, but not another person. I think so, to my knowledge. Because if I cannot do it, I cannot tell the goy.
Not true. Not true. Bakasha.
סיבוב שני.
All right. Here goes.
Take another one.
What about, this is a very fascinating discussion that I read today in the Deer Shoe. They had a power outage in Eretz Yisrael, and you know that the people who are fixing the power outage are Jewish. So, Rabbi Zalman says, maybe you should shut off, let's say they're doing it in a forbidden way. There's no hospitals, there's no security situations that they need light for. Forbidden way. Maybe you should switch off all the switches in your house while the power is out, so that when they turn it back on, they shouldn't be marbe b'shiyurim. They shouldn't be doing additional isurim of turning on the additional lights and appliances in your house. What do you think? Yes or no?
No.
No, why not?
Because when you switch it already, you're doing action.
No, the power's off now. You're not doing anything. The power's off. You're just switching the light, but the power's off.
I'll give you another example.
Give me.
I have a timer.
Yeah.
It's not on.
Yeah.
I just turn around a little bit. 1 minute before it's turn or switch on, and then it's okay.
And keep it off. Bakasha. Do it. I'll give you a head there. Yeah.
No problem.
If it's not on and the timer is going to make it turn on, but you
Just
make it stay off. You don't make it turn on.
No.
You make it stay
What's
off.
the difference?
There's a difference because you're not making it
I'm
turn
not
on.
put it on. I
stay
put
off.
it 1 minute before it's on.
No, 1 minute you're making it turn on sooner. Now,
What's the difference?
Because you're not doing anything. You're making it stay off. There's no issue to make
You
something.
can make it stay off all the time.
Make it later.
You could always stop a malacha from happening. You cannot do a malacha. You cannot make a malacha come sooner, but you can stop a malacha from happening.
What about
I'm not talking about the muktzah. There are muktzah issues, whatever.
what about that timer? They have like a pin, like a plastic pin. You know, like
Whatever.
You switch it.
The
You can stop
rule
it.
is you cannot make a malacha happen. You cannot make it happen sooner, but you can stop it from happening. You're allowed to stop it from happening.
Why is that?
Because you're allowed to stop a malacha. It doesn't say anywhere that is a problem to stop a malacha. You cannot do a malacha. You're allowed to stop a malacha. Now, the maybe it's muktzah, so you do it with the shinui. The timer itself, I'm saying. Maybe the timer itself is muktzah, you do it with the shinui.
The same with the AC, with the motor, it's working, then make it even cooler. So it can
Yeah, that's what they say, with the shinui. If the switch itself is not electrical. Okay,
Only
but listen here.
The gufrit, only the gufrit you can do that. Right,
But listen here. So Moshe says you can't do it. You can't do it, he says. Lakasha, because he says all of the switches are muktzah. The switches that were on when Shabbos came in were muktzah. Because there was a current going through that. You weren't allowed to touch it. When it's muktzah, when Shabbos comes in, it stays muktzah. So you can't turn it off to save them because of muktzah. However, he says, if you turn it off with your elbow, lakasha, because you're allowed to move muktzah k'la'achayad. So he says that's a good thing. You should go around your house turning off switches with your elbow.
I see what he got with your elbow.
If it's only a muktzah issue. Scraping, I don't know. I don't know about that. But nowadays, yeah. But one second, it's just an amazing thing. You have to look at the world with the Shlomo Zalman's glasses. You understand? These guys, they're turning on the electricity in the power plant. Thousands of appliances are going on throughout the city. And in your house, there's 2 or 3 rooms, and you're going to be plunged into darkness because of this. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be an easy Shabbos. You're turning everything off. No. He says, yeah, it's a good thing because you're saving them from one of or 3 or 5 of 10,000 Isurim. Nevertheless, that's what you have to do. It's an amazing thing.
Okay. You help him not to do the sin that the guy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But he's doing anyway, so it's nothing to do with you.
Nevertheless, if you can stop him in a small way, even though it's a very small way of the big sin.
And then you suffer all the Shabbat with darker.
He actually doesn't say you have to. He says it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
How do you know if it's Jewish or not?
In Israel. I'm talking about in Israel. Outside of Israel, you don't have to
You have
worry.
a goy in Israel too. They're working.
Maybe. I don't know. Sorry?
It's happened just power off just before Shabbos.
No, it's not. They're not Jewish.
You put the oven on, and now the hot pot is off, and then put it back on. And
You don't touch it. You don't do anything.
So what? What's
It would be
wrong?
like visual. Akum.
They shall akum.
You put the
50% cooked already.
No, let's say if you don't.
You bring your rabbi to do.
Even so, it wasn't his intention, but
I don't know. That's a shaila. I mean, we have, for example, a din in Bishal Akum. Let's say the goy burnt a swamp. It was a swamp, and there was too much wood. So he lit the swamp on fire to get rid of the extra wood. And inside the swamp, there were also grasshoppers, kosher grasshoppers, and they got roasted. You want to eat the roasted grasshoppers? It says you're allowed to. It's not Bishal Akum, because the goy didn't intend to cook. He intended to burn the swamp. So here, you could say the same thing. The goy didn't intend to cook. He intended to turn the electricity on. On the other hand, he knew that it could be a cooking utensil. So I'm not 100% sure. But this simple hashkafa rishona, the original thought is that it's mutter. Because it's not, he doesn't think about cooking per se. Before, I don't know.
And another way is if it's turned off, usually it's 3-5 minutes, 10 most, and that's already for the food, it's like it's still cooking.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I hear you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about a Hatmanah. Hatmanah in a davar hamoisef hevel is also even from before Shabbos. Why? Exactly, because maybe you will put it in coals. Even though here it's not coals. Moisef hevel could be anything. Could be even manure. It could be decomposing material. What else? Feathers are moisef hevel?
Sand, salt, sesames.
Sand from that's heated by the sun. Sesame that's decomposing. Does it say it about feathers?
The olives.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being forgetful. So Mishal Shemshon Zevel Melach Sid Chol Bein Lachem Yiveshim Teven Zogim Moichim Asavim. Moichim is Doverach Tzemer Gefen Tlisha Semerach various Begonim Bluyim. I don't think it's as feathers. Dvarim she'ena misiv mevel ksus uperis v'kan feyona ishar noitzes. Feathers are not moisiv hevel. Those are examples of not moisiv hevel. The point is, even if it's something that is not actually moisiv hevel, that is not actual coals, but because it's moisiv hevel, it adds heat. It's similar to coals, and if you would do it in that, you might do it in coals, and as such, you might stoke the coals. Now, we have to point out that the rules of Hatmanah b'davar moisiv hevel are much stricter than the rules of Shehiyah. For Shehiyah, you have a heter of Ma'achal Mendrusoi. You certainly have a heter of Mitztamek Raloi. Even the Chachamim who are strict about Ma'achal Mendrusoi agree that if it's Mitztamek Raloi, it's allowed. Yet, that doesn't help you for Hatmanah b'davar moisiv hevel. Why not?
there's something killing when compared to Shehiyah. Sounds like killing.
Yes, there are Mekilim that say that the same Heterim that apply to Shehiyah apply to Hatmanah. That is correct. And b'di'evet you could be Samech on them, but not L'chatchila. L'chatchila you should not do Hatmanah in the davar moisiv hevel, even if it's Mitztamek v'raloi. And even if it's Grufa Uktuma. Why?
Hatmanah is something you do on Shabbos.
You do it from before Shabbos. You do it from before Shabbos. No. You do Hatmanah from before Shabbos. Talking about it from before Shabbos. I'm not talking about Hatmanah b'davar she'eina moisiv. Hatmanah b'davar she'eina moisiv is asur on Shabbos. Right? Mutter from before Shabbos, asur on Shabbos. That's a whole different reason. I'm talking about davar hamoisiv, which is asur from before Shabbos. Why is it asur to be matman in a davar moisiv hevel if it's fully cooked and mitztamek v'raloi? Why would you be machatab b'gechalim? That would be very strange. Why would you be machatab b'gechalim in an item that is mitztamek v'raloi?
Maybe you would want to take out the coals because it's cooking too much. Not there. You have an answer to this question?
I have an answer to this question. Yes, I do.
Maybe when you move,
Why? Give me why.
when you remove the blanket, you can touch the gechalim or something.
Yeah, but maybe there's no gechalim here. Maybe it's in all these other items which are not even gechalim. They're just moisiv hevel. So the shalzeisim, shumshimin, zevel, melach, sid, choil, all these things that are naturally adding heat without any gecholim. So you're not going to be disturbing any gecholim. The answer is that. Sorry. I understand, but it's mastam uraloi. So why would you be mechata, regardless of what you're being matman in? The answer is that the whole point of Hatmanah is to keep something hot for the next day. And therefore, you need the heat to last longer. And therefore, we're concerned that it's going to be mechata, even with Mistam Guralai. Again, when it comes to Shehiyah is usually done. Let me explain one more time. When it comes to Shehiyah is usually done for the night. Because if you're leaving it open to the air and just fire underneath it, which is what Shehiyah is, it's probably not going to be good for the next day. It's only good for the night. So therefore, if it's Mistam Guralai, you're going to ruin it, you're not going to do it. When it comes to Hatmanah, which is usually done for the next day, the chances are that the coals are going to die down. To keep it hot for the next day, you're going to have to be mechata. Otherwise, it's going to be cold. So in order to keep it hot for the next day, we're more concerned you might be mechata, even though it's mistamak v'ralei. Because the fact is, otherwise it's going to be cold. You want it warm, even though it's going to be a little bit more burnt, but at least it'll be warm. When it comes to the nighttime, where it's already warm, you don't need to be mechata to keep it warm. You might be mechata to make it cook faster because your guests are coming, whatever. But you're not worried about it being warm. But over here, where it's going to die down, it might not even be warm. So it's more important for you to keep it warm, even though it's mistam v'ralei.
So shema yechate.
Shema yechate. That's the bottom line. Shema yechate.
This Hatmanah basically just to be able to keep it warm. That's not going to happen.
You don't need it to cook. It's already cooked. Mistam v'ralei means it's too much, too cooked.
So if you don't put blanket, we don't choshesh shema yechatetu.
If it's just a blanket, there's no chashash shema yechate. That's not moisev hevel. The only chashash shema yechate is if it's something that's moisev hevel, adding it.
Like zevel.
These things are similar to gechalim. If you could do it in them, you might do it in gechalim. And then if you do it in gechalim, you might do yechate b'gechalim. It's like a double gzeir almost, but here they did make a double gzeir.
So only because Rabbanan, that's
of course, because, absolutely.
Otherwise, both of them shema yechate. If he put this one or doesn't,
exactly.
Shema yechate.
So just to clear, all the concepts of Hatmanah, it's going to reply even the food is not under fire.
Yeah, even if it's no fire, if it's moisev hevel, yeah. Yeah. Correct.
But it's not to be mechata. Let's say you took it and you covered it, took the food out of the oven for Shabbos, put it on the counter and cover it completely with the pan.
That's not moisev hevel. That's ain't moisev hevel. That just keeps the heat. It doesn't add heat. That you could do from before Shabbos. You can't do it on Shabbos. Okay, I want to.
What time? I'm curious if they have an hour time.
In moisev hevel?
Yeah. Actually, but
La Maisa, we don't really have something that's moisev hevel, with one exception, and that is if you put a pot on top of a blech and then you insulate it, that could be a moisev hevel situation. Meaning to say, the blanket itself is not moisev hevel, and the blech itself is not hatmanah because it's only underneath. But when there's a blech giving heat from below, and there's a towel on the sides, so the heat comes from below and causes the towel to be moisev hevel. That's an example, the only example I know of hatmanah b'davar moisev hevel nowadays.
So on the top, you're allowed to do that, not on the side.
Oh, if you just put it on the top and not on the side, yeah, that's okay. I mean, it is a machlokes about hatmanah b'davar moisev hevel, if it goes niktsas or not. The Mechaber is strict on that. So according to the Mechaber, probably no. But according to the Ramah, it's only usher if it's completely surrounded on all sides and the top. Alter Rebbe is strict if it's a majority surrounded on the sides. So, yeah, so only the top would be okay.
What about, I asked you, so, but I don't want to
Somebody over there, Rabbi.
I want to get a clarification if you get a chance.
Just 1 second, Daniel. Oh, Ronnie is here. First of all, big mazel tov to Ronnie. Yeshikoyach, mazel tov, baby boy, chor, Baruch Hashem. 1 second, Daniel. Just give me a moment. Ronnie's asking a question, then I'll come to yours. Yeah, sorry. Elchanan is coming. He had a baby boy. Baby boy.
And
Sorry.
Israel.
Yeah.
הנה הגיע ברוך השם.
I know, it seems like a problem. It seems like a problem. It seems like a problem, but Rav Wosner said that he says it's mutter. Okay, just 1 second, sorry. Daniel, what's your question? Sorry.
Hi. Okay, I'm looking in 257 part 1 and a daber hamosaf hebel, and it's good for it. You can't do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's usher too. But if it's mistamik viralo, you can use that on Shabbos.
B'diavad. You're not allowed to do tefillah, but b'diavad you can because there's no benefit. It didn't get to taste any better, so it's not going to be also b'diavad. Okay, I'm sorry to all my online students, but we have to do a little break now for Meir because we would not have a minyan later, and we'll continue after Meir. I'm sorry. Fall, shkar for staying. Shkar for staying. Sorry? And malasot.
I'm the only one pray.
I'm sorry?
I'm only the only one pray.
The grasshoppers are all
You are. This is enough.
סיבוב שלישי.
Okay, very good. 2, 4, 7, 8, not 9. Where's the phone? We're out. No problem. Let's try to lash up the dark. Almost the issue. Okay, no shit.
אמן יש מר הבא מורך לעולם ולמר מיה. אמן. ברוך אדוני המורך לעולם ועד.
What do you
Amen. אמן. אמן יהיה שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי מיה. אמן, יש מאיר הבא ומבורך לעולם, ולעולם היה.
Like 3 days.
You said 70 is the value of the extra.
Yeah, that's what
You'll be back, maybe we'll text you, you know, when you'll be back from this?
Should be back. Thursday, not the Thursday of that week, but Thursday of the next week. So the week of Tisha B'Av, the week before Tisha B'Av, I'll be back here. Shehiyah. Very good. What's with the big Yitzhak, no? Oh well. No. Okay. All right, everybody say, let's get back to work. So, as Daniel was pointing out just before the break, the halacha is that Hatmanah is mutter b'di'evad if it's a davar, if it's mitztamik or aloi, simply because you did not, it's not considered a benefit. Like that stayed hot, but didn't actually change in any significant way, is not considered a benefit. Yeah.
If I drink before war, I said one of a shot, and now I want to drink more. I'll do more.
No.
Continue, right?
Yeah,
I thought
continue.
to do more, but just
No
did
problem.
just a
You said Brian Fashot?
Yes.
No, then you have to make another bracha. I didn't hear what you said. I thought you said just Meyer in between. Okay. Hatmanah in a davar she'einu moisef havel is aser on Shabbos. Why?
Shema.
On Shabbos.
Hatmanah for
But davar she'einu moisef havel.
Oh,
There's no shema yichata. You're just covering with a blanket.
On Shabbos is not allowed.
Because you're taking a blanket and you're covering a pot that's on the counter. It's not on the stove.
Mosif
It's not going to be hot enough for you to see that's cold. You let it back.
Exactly. You might light a fire, or you might put it back on the fire to heat up again.
all because Rabban Gazru Shema it's still hot.
Then maybe you'll heat it up. You might realize it's not hot enough. Because when the moment that you do a hatmanah with davar she'einu moisef havel, you need it to be boiling hot. Because the Hatmanah is not adding heat, it's just maintaining heat. So if it's not hot in the first place, it's not going to be very good. So you want it to be boiling hot at that moment. You might realize that it's not hot enough and want to reheat it. So therefore, you can't do it on Shabbos. There is one exception to this rule. לא שמא יחטא, שמא יבשל.
איפה יש לו בישול?
שמא ישים את זה על האש. יראה שזה לא חם, הוא ישים את זה על האש.
הוא ייקח משהו, אם הוא ישים את זה על האש, הוא ייקח מהמקרר, ישים על האש גם כן, גם יעשה חטא.
מהמקרר? מה פתאום?
אם הוא עושה את זה על האש,
מהמקרר אין עניין של הטמנה. למה שהוא יחשוב שהמקרר הזה חם? הטמנה הוא עושה עם דבר חם, ובאותו זמן, באותו דקה יראה שזה לא חם מספיק, הוא ישכח שזה שבת, הוא יחמם.
אז זה לפלטה כאילו?
לפלטה, על האש, על ה...
אבל אם זה יבש מותר לו לשים על ה...
לא, אבל אם זה לא יבש, אם זה לח.
אם זה לח.
או אם זה לא מבושל לגמרי, זה בישול גם, אם זה יבש.
אם זה לא מבושל לגמרי?
כן.
אבל אם זה לא מבושל, למה בכלל הוא בחוץ? השמיכה לא יבשל אותו בכלל.
לא, זה 90%. כמעט מבושל.
אז אם השמיכה זה יתבשל?
זה ראוי לאכילה, 90%. אבל לחמם את זה אסור.
אני לא מוצא מה ההיגיון בדבר לחסות אותו.
לחמם. להשאיר את זה חם, שיהיה חם בשביל הסעודה.
איזה סעודה? אבל הוא לא מבושל רבי.
מבושל 90%.
90% זה לא 100%.
זה בסדר, מספיק.
מספיק?
אפילו 50% זה ראוי לאכילה. זה מה שלמדנו, כל העניין שמאכל בן דוסאי.
כן, אבל אנשים לא, זה לא, רק בן דוסאי אוכל את זה, אני לא אוכל את זה 50%.
כן, אבל 90%. סתם, כן.
אתה לא אוכל את זה 50%? לא.
50 לא, 90 כן. תלוי לפי העניין. Sorry?
So, there's for Turkey and one that says that this can be sure how we show.
Balach?
Shema wants to cook it because it's getting cold. And the parent says that yes, we should how we show. No, the one that then we should how we show, then he's going to make a fire now.
Yeah, exactly.
So one is actually חשש איסור בישול, and one is
כן, נכון, שמעת? אפילו לפי הדעה שאין בישול אחר בישול בלח, יש דעה כזה, אבל פה אולי הוא ידליק אש לחמם. כן, ישכח, ידליק את האש, יחמם. זה הבעיה. אתה לא מאמין שיש כזה דבר ששוכחים שזה שבת. אבל חכמים ראו שאולי יש כזה כאילו אנשים.
זה כמו אתה לקח עוף, תתחיל להוציא את הנוצרות ולעשות ככה ולשים אותו מאש. אז באמת הוא שכח שבת.
מה הקשר?
לא יודע. למה יש ככה שבת? שבת זה תענוג.
בסדר. Okay. There is a time on Shabbos that you're allowed to do Hatmanah b'davar she'eino moisef. When is that? Ben Hashmashos. Why?
What's the question?
בבין השמשות מותר להטמין דבר באינו מוסיף הבל. למה?
Because it's just before Shabbos, you said the pot can be hot.
Exactly, because in Jewish kitchens, on Friday afternoon, they reheat everything. So at that time, it's going to be hot. And you're not going to come to reheat it. Very good. Another permissible way of Hatmanah is if the Hatmanah is not touching the sides. If we would drape a towel in such a way that it's not hugging the sides of the pot, that's mutter. Even though it maintains heat, but it's not included in the Xer of Hatmanah. And by the way, this leads us to the discussion of a crock pot. A crock pot, according to Shlomo Zalman, is a problem of Hatmanah b'davar hamoisef hevel. Because you have the heat coming out from underneath, and you have the walls of that crock part of the pot, hugging the pot part of the crock. And it's a problem. And that's what some people use with crock pots. They put some foil underneath to lift it up so it's not touching the sides, the whole thing. But those that are makel with the crock pot, which is most Jews in America, is because they consider that most of the walls are not touching the part that's Meisav Hevel. Basically, it sits, the lip of it touches it in the very top, but the rest of it, there's a space in between. So it's not majority mutman. That's the basis of those that are mekel. Anyway.
It would be a problem, no?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Mechaber holds that a partial hatmanah is a hatmanah. Even just on the bottom, by the way, even without any sides. Although I did see in the Yalkut Yosef that perhaps can be mekel, considering the fact that the plata, or for that matter, the crock pot, whatever, is not a pliable surface. There's a sort to say that the whole concept of Hatmanah only applies to a surface that can be bent and made to hug, like coals are made to hug. Because it's metal. I mean, it's even if it's touching, but it's not the sort of thing that you could put around something else in a way that, I mean, whatever is touching, but you can't push anything else to touch it. So it's not, doesn't resemble coals in that way. Yeah. But Siruf, he says that's a svara plus the svara of the fact that some Rishonim hold it's only Hatmanah if it's fully Hatmanah. So that's the head of which.
And Friday night.
What do you mean Friday night?
And so, some Rishonim hold it's only Friday night and Shabbos day.
Yeah, but what about people who want food for Friday night? According to Hatmanah, what about chicken soup? How are you allowed to put chicken soup on a plata according to the Mechaber? What's that? Hatmanah. The bottom is a Meisav Hevel. Friday night.
Putting it on Shabbos.
No, before Shabbos. Hatmanah b'davar Meisav Hevel. Hatmanah b'mitzvos. What's that? You have to say something like that, otherwise you're in trouble. That's his etter. Sorry, we have mine already.
Huh?
We haven't already, sorry.
You ready?
Yeah, sorry.
We can repeat for you if you
I called it for earlier because I thought it all had to go and people came and
No.
went and whatever.
We haven't had a board meeting in a year, so.
Wow. Okay. All right. So the point is, that's what I meant. I meant it.
I said some you there.
Okay. What they do in Bnei Brak, by the way, for your information,
chicken soup, Rabbi?
they put pennies on the underneath the pot, 3 pennies to make a little tripod to lift up the pot, so it's not actually touching the bottom. That's the Chazon Ish holds of bottom makes this also.
Oh, yeah.
Bnei Brak is the Chazon Ish's town. That's in general, whatever the Chazon Ish paskins, that's the halacha at Bnei Brak. But they're a klal. So I'm just saying that's what they do.
So chicken soup, there's any term for it?
I'm saying those that are choshesh for Hatmanah b'mitzvos with the plata, they put little coins underneath it to lift it up.
Or aluminum foil.
Yeah, that's good too. Okay.
I'm sorry, the chicken soup must be hot, right, Rabbi?
What do you mean?
Chicken soup, it's a liquid. Right?
So they have crock pots when the Chazon Ish was alive?
No. I'll answer that question in a second. I understand what you're.
If the chicken soup is not hot,
Yeah.
you can put it on a platter?
On Shabbos? On Shabbos? No, of course not.
No, right, it's
No,
not
I'm
be
talking
hot
about before
already,
Shabbos.
right?
I'm talking about before
Before
Shabbos,
Shabbos.
where if you hold Hatmanah b'mitzvos shema Hatmanah, that means even a partial putting something on something that adds heat is a problem, even partially. So even just the bottom of the pot can't be in a place that's Moisef Hevel. So some people, they put coins underneath the pot, so it's not actually touching
but
the plug.
why we don't allow before Shabbat to do anything at Mana or anything for that?
That's what we've been learning here tonight.
I know. So,
No. If you do Hatmanah, the davar hamoisef hevel, before Shabbos, then you might stoke the coals on Shabbos. Shema yechateh begachal.
there's Rabbanim Gazu.
Rabbanim Gazul, you might stoke it on Shabbos.
Okay.
Of course, before Shabbos, you can stoke as much as you want. But if you do it before Shabbos, and you're afraid it's going to cool off, you may stoke it on Shabbos. Sorry, Daniel, what were you saying?
I was kind of maybe a little bit silly. Did they have crock pots in the time of the Chazon Ish where they would do these 3 pennies?
They didn't have crock pots. I don't know when they invented it, but not then. I'm talking about blechs. I don't even think they had platas in his time.
Oh, I see. So maybe they put the pennies on the blech or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. We continue and we say, I think we mentioned this yesterday, that if you put something around something else, not for keeping heat, but for protecting it, let's say you put a cover on a pot. Cover on the pot is not to maintain the heat. It's because the pot needs to be covered. Things can fall into it. So that's not called Hatmanah.
How you cover?
Sorry?
With what you cover?
You cover it with the pot. The pot has a cover. You cover it. That's not called Hatmanah.
The mechseh.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, it's not. It's part of the pot.
Exactly. Now, we mentioned this earlier, that on Shabbos you're allowed to add to Hatmanah. You're allowed to switch towels to different towels. You're allowed to take it out and put it back. All of that is mutter for Hatmanah. Hatmanah is more lenient than Shehiyah in this respect.
On Shabbat or before Shabbat?
On Shabbos. If it had Hatmanah in a blanket before Shabbos, you're allowed to switch to a different blanket. You're allowed to take it out and put it back into the same blanket.
It's a similar with the oil. If it's a 50%, if it's a little bit, if it's the oil, if it's covered a little bit, you can continue to open it. Similar to that.
I don't know. That has very different rules than this. I'm not going to compare it. It's different rules. Okay. Another way to do a permissible hatmana, bedavar she'eno moisef hevel on Shabbos, listen carefully, is to switch the contents to another pot.
So what's the what?
Another way to do a permissible hatmana on Shabbos is to switch the contents to another pot.
Pot from pot?
To another pot.
What's the reason we're doing
Because once you do that, it's not in the original pot. It's not so hot anyway. It's not an important hatmana.
But we discussed in the Yavazah when you lift it up, it could be in the original cake.
Right. That makes it worse. Here it makes it better. That's a good question, actually, on the test. What's an example of a condition that makes it worse for Chazara and makes it better for Hatmanah? It makes it worse for Chazara, makes it better for Hatmanah. Here you have it. If you switch it to another pot, you can't do Chazara because it's like according to the Magen Avraham, because it's like looks like a new Shehiyah. But if you switch it to a different pot, then you can do Hatmanah even for the first time.
When the pot, you're lifting it off, how you transfer it by lifting it?
Transfer what?
The thing of the while you're in the pot. You said to transfer the stuff.
Transfer the chicken soup into another pot. You have chicken soup, you heated it up before Shabbos, but you forgot to put the towels on it. Forgot. Now it's already Shabbos, it's too late. It's not even Ben Hashmashis anymore. Ben Hashmashis, you can still do it. It's not Ben Hashmashis, you're stuck. What do? If you pour it into another pot, then you can do it.
It's already on the blach, you mean?
No, it's on the blech. You don't need Hatmanah. Talking about you have no blech. You didn't have a blech. You're not making Shabbos lunch. You're going to your friend. You're only making Friday night. You figured I'm gonna not leave any fire on. I'm just gonna put towels around the soup, but you forgot. Now it's too late. What do? How do you do a permissible hatmanah? So we said there's one way is to not put it directly around, to drape it so it's not hugging it. Another way we're learning now is if you switch the contents to another pot, then you can do Hatmanah. Because it's not in the original pot, it's not really... Exactly, that's the whole point. Because it's cooling it off, it's not considered an important Hatmanah. Hatmanah is in the original pot, that's a good Hatmanah. If it's cooled off, it's not a real important Hatmanah, it's allowed.
So if I'm going to put the same pot with the chicken soup and put it in just in a bigger pot.
Oh, keep it in the pot? Well, then it's not going to touch the sides of that pot.
And then I'm flooding it.
Yeah,
So
that's another way. But that's a different heter. That's because it's not touching. Question?
We comes back. He can eat the soup.
Heat. I'm not only heating it. I'm talking about
he can eat it. He can drink the soup.
if what? In what case?
When he's going away, he said, and that's why the reason he's moving from pot to pots. So when he comes back, he can eat.
Why not? He didn't do anything wrong. He switched it to another pot. He did Hatmanah. That's permissible. So he can eat it. Why not?
by the way, in the same case, if I take the same pot, if I got to do it one, I want to just keep it in there as it's not going to get cold so quick. I'm allowed to put it in the oven.
In the oven?
The oven is off.
No.
Why? The oven is not working.
Oh, what do you mean? It has no heat in it? Zero heat?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at least it's not going to get cool. Like
Yeah. That, yes. Because that's not called Hatmanah because it's not touching.
It's like it's-
And if I just turn the oven just before Shabbos, 2 minutes before,
No. If the oven is still hot, you cannot.
but it's cooling down, there's no.
It makes no difference. If the oven is still hot, you cannot because that's like a new Shehiyah. An oven that's hot but turned off is exactly a oven that is grufa. What's grufa? You took out the coals, but it's still hot from the coals that were there before. So when you turn off the oven, that's grufa, you took away the heat source, but it's still hot. To put an oven that's grufa on Shabbos, you can't do it. Makes no difference. If it's still hot, you're putting it into an oven on Shabbos, that's grufa. That's mamish major chazara issue.
Rabbi,
And do it unless you have the conditions of chazara, which you don't have.
I have another question. If the food in the pot is
Could you do it during Bein Hashmashos?
Do what during Manish Mashas?
Could you just on that case with the oven that you turned off? Could you put it into an oven during Bein Hashmashos if the food was hot? Is that kind of like Hatmanah?
You cannot do a Shehiyah, you cannot do a chazara and Ben Hashmashas unless you're keeping the conditions of chazara. The conditions of chazara from before Shabbos to Shabbos, everybody agrees has to be that you have it in your hand and you had in mind and it's still hot. Well, it's still hot in this case, obviously. But if it's not in your hand and you didn't have it in mind, you can't do it.
But then how is that different than like Hatmanah, where I guess because you're not adding a heat.
Money, you're not putting it in a place that cooks it. You're just surrounding it with towels. Putting it
Okay.
in, which is a place that cooks it, and it's still hot, even though the heat source is off, but it is still hot. That looks like cooking.
Okay.
because it looks like cooking and banana soup. Otherwise,
Exactly.
if I have a pot boiling, other than the stove, where when you turn off, it's still warm a little bit, but the pot is boiling.
Lo Mashaneh,
Lo
Midaraisa, it's not
because
Aser. Of course it's not Aser, Midaraisa, but it's Mechzik Mavasha.
Okay.
To put it in the oven that's hot is Mechzik Mavasha.
Okay.
Okay. Crock pot, smear closed. Mitzvah to do Hatmanah. It's a mitzvah to do Hatmanah. I mean, it's a mitzvah to have hot food on Shabbos. Exactly. Exactly. And a person who doesn't do it because he's afraid that it's usher is we're choshish that he's maybe tzeduki.
Anything hot, right?
Yeah.
Meaning tea, drink even like
Tea, it's a-
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, to me, cooked meat actually on Shabbos. So
It has to be meat.
Rabbi, אם אתה אנוס,
I mean, it's a mitzvah to have meat on Shabbos, but is that the thing that has to be hot? I didn't see.
Rabbi,
I mean, you're supposed to have what's considered a good food in that place, which is chicken, meat. I mean, it doesn't have to be meat per se.
If a time said you don't have food,
If my can,
so you don't have hot food.
okay. I'm sure.
So,
Sinner.
Actually, I think second down to have it and you have to.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I heard that the Rebbe sometimes had. Listen, I have it, but I heard that the Rebbe sometimes only had tea. That's what I heard.
it's down till
I'm not saying you can be samech on that because I can't say I heard it from like the original source, but kashamati, I don't know. Anyway, I just want to go through a few points that I gave out in the notes from today. One who did a malacha in Tosefes Shabbos, it is not osur b'di eved. Okay, that's good to know. One who did malacha after Shehiyah, when it is not yet Shehiyah, according to all opinions, it is not osur b'di eved. Also from the Mishnah Berurah. One who did malacha when it is for sure after Shehiyah, even though it's before Tseis, it is osur b'di eved. That's also in the Mishnah Berurah. Here is an important heter that may be sometimes helpful. Eli Rabbah says that it is mutter, or that some say it's mutter to do an iser d'Rabbanan to save somebody from an iser d'oraisa, from a severe iser d'oraisa, that is to say, even if they are a pasheya.
Oh, you can do this.
You can do an iser d'Rabbanan to save a person from a severe iser d'oraisa, even if they're a pasheya. Some say that.
The beginning of the shore, we said the opposite.
Some say that. No, we did say that. We did say the opposite. But he just brings it out as some say, and he relies on it, lamaisa, in a case of a person who is going to be assimilated maybe amongst the goyim. Because in Siman Shinvav, it talks about a girl who's kidnapped by the goyim. And it says that the father should run after her and save her, even if it involves Chilul Shabbos, to save her from being assimilated. So there it says that that's only if she's kidnapped. But if she goes birtzona, she goes willingly, she's a pasheya. You can't do a malacha to save a pasheya. But Eli Rabbah says if it's only malacha d'Rabbanan, we can rely on those opinions that are matter, because we're not just saving her from one Shabbos, we're saving her chas v'shalom from a lifetime of sin. So that's an interesting thing to know about. I mean, there's stories of people going, convincing people into marriage, whatever. I'm just saying it's an interesting heter. Okay. Rav Wosner says you cannot do even an Isser D'Rabbanan to prevent somebody from doing an Isser, from doing a Malacha D'Oraisa, which he thinks is mutter for Pikuach Nefesh. Meaning to say, he's on his way to save somebody's life. L'maisa, you know that the life is already saved. Are you allowed to call him on the phone and tell him, don't come? Rav Wosner says, no, because you calling him is an Isser D'Rabbanan. Him going is not an Isser at all. It's a mitzvah. Until he knows better, it's a mitzvah. So you can't do any malacha to stop him from doing what is not an aveira at all. Interesting thing.
But he has a phone also as well.
He has a phone because he's an atzala, he's a radio.
He's a doctor.
That's life.
It's a big halacha for telling people.
Yeah, it is.
You can't call the Hatzalah member and tell him that the
Not
ambulance
to
already
come.
got there before you.
Exactly. Unless there are other reasons maybe that he shouldn't come, because maybe he's needed back. And usually Hatzalah members are situated in such a place that they're needed. So if they go somewhere else, maybe it's not so good for the next call, whatever, that's another thing.
You can't call him to tell him that an ambulance already got there.
Not to come, exactly. Right. Yeah, it's
You
interesting.
can't say, cancel.
Yeah, it is interesting. Another thing that we didn't mention in the past, although we mentioned it, I think, months ago, the Mishnah Berurah brings down Rabbi Akiva Eger, who brings down Rishonim that say, Big Chumrah, that perhaps Gufa Uktuma does not help if it's less than Machal Ben Rusoi. What we quoted up until now is that if it's Gufa Uktuma, it takes care of everything. No matter what, it takes care of it. There are Rishonim that say it doesn't help if it's less than Machal Ben
Give
Rusoi.
another symbol about Ktuma.
I'm saying if you have food on a plata, some say that even on a plata that has no different buttons, you can't change the temperature. Actually, I'm not sure if you can't change the temperature. Maybe it doesn't apply. Because if you can't change the temperature, what are you going to do? There's nothing to do. But let's say you have a oven with a blech. But you can change the temperature, but the blech reminds you not to. Some say that if it's less than half cooked, the blech doesn't help because you're so nervous about it that you might ignore the blech and change it anyway. I think on a plot that would be okay if a plot doesn't, but that doesn't have controls. Because there's nothing really to do. Okay, here's another important thing. We'll finish with this. Rav Shlomo Zalman holds if you have an urn that has not boiled yet. Shabbos came in. It was already Kamachal Ben Dusa when Shabbos came in. It was already out. So let us boil what you said, whatever it is. It hasn't boiled yet. You can't take any water out of that. Because the less water in it, the faster it's going to boil. So you're causing the rest of the water to boil faster.
But Ben Hashmashot you allowed. Right?
No.
No?
Ben Hashmashot is Shabbos.
Before Ben Hashmashot.
Before Ben Hashmashot, it's not Shabbos yet. All right, everybody says it's been a pleasure. Next week we continue Chazor with Hilchas Bishul. Chodesh Tov, everybody. Good month. Yehafich l'sasan u'lesimcha.
Amen.
It's Hashem.